In the previous two videos, I got the audio cleaned up and then quantized the timing of each of the vocal parts. In this video, I'm going to go over the last step of my process, which is editing pitches. Before we dive in, I do want to talk about the idea of pitch quantization or auto-tuning. I mentioned in the first video that the degree to which you edit your parts is a matter of taste. And I think probably the area about which most people are most sensitive in this regard is when it comes to pitch. Autotune had its first big moment in the spotlight when Cher released Believe. It was the first instance of over the top pitch correction that garnered massive public response, and as a result, inserted the term autotune into common everyday jargon. The reason for this is because the way it was used in that particular song was so extreme that it sounded unnatural and almost robotic. My guess is this is exactly what the producer was going for. And I'd even further that had the effect not been used in such an extreme way, that the song, catchy as it is, probably would not have gotten nearly as much attention as it did. In today's music, the way pitch quantization is used covers the whole spectrum, from subtle and unnoticeable to extreme. In fact, many entertainers even rely on it to achieve the sound for which they're known. While I definitely have my own opinions on the matter, the bottom line is whether you use it, and if so, the degree to which you use it is all in the eyes, or I guess in this case, the ears of the beholder. My goal with this song is for all the pitches to be accurate and for the performance to sound totally natural. All in all, Cubase's pitch quantization system, called Very Audio, is pretty powerful and can help you achieve a wide variety of results. Before I go through and start editing the parts, there are some basics you need to know in terms of how to use this function. When you go into the Very Audio tab of the sample editor, the first time you click on the arrow next to pitch and warp, it will calculate all the pitches. Depending on the length of the event and your computer's processing power, the amount of time this takes will vary. That said, in most cases, it should only take a few seconds. What you'll then see is a bunch of bars and lines, which represent the pitches of the program material. Take a listen, and you should be able to easily recognize the correlation.
My mind lost its spark, lights have dimmed to dark.
So to work in the Very Audio tab, I'll be moving between the Pitch and Warp tool and the Segments tool. The Pitch and Warp tool allows you to adjust pitches. With the Playback Listen button activated, you'll hear the results of your moves in real time.
La, 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 la.
You probably noticed that the pitches move in semitones. But what if I want to move it less than a semitone? That's possible too. All you need to do is hold the Shift key as you drag the segment up or down.
Did. This
is an important capability because there are times where even a perfectly quantized pitch doesn't sound quite right to the ears. So when it comes to the actual workflow for editing pitches, I generally start out by selecting all the pitches, which you can do with the Select All command or just by using your mouse to capture all of them, and then I'll quantize the pitches to 100%. Then, if the lines in any of the segments vary too much from the center, I'll use the Straighten Pitch tool. If the variance of that line seems to be isolated to one area, I like to use the Segments tool to isolate that specific section, which you basically do by cutting the beginning and the ending point and then just selecting that center point and straightening it. So having covered those basics, now I'm going to go through and edit the melody.
My mind lost its spark. I'm
going to cut the beginning of this line for a smoother transition and then straighten the pitch.
Mind lost its spark.
Again, some more straightening.
Its spark, lights have dimmed to
Fixing a wrong note here.
Too dark. Too dark. I thought time was.
Sometimes, like here, pitches need to be divided into separate segments when it's two different notes.
Time was my friend.
This section needs to be requantized.
Time was my friend.
And straighten this last pitch out.
My friend.
At this point during playback, you probably could hear some unnatural sounding artifacts of the pitch quantization. Generally, they occur when notes connect from one to another with wider interval jumps. And the artifacts are especially noticeable when straightening has been applied. Listen to this example here. You'll hear when the pitch jumps, it sounds robotic and unnatural.
Mine lost it. Mine lost. I thought time.
To fix this, I'm going to use the segments tool to isolate those jumps. And then I'll relax the quantized pitch and straighten pitch until I no longer hear the quantization artifacts. For the smoothest transition, you're going to want to chop the very end of the event going into it and then the very beginning of the following note, and then reduce the quantization and straightening. The final step is to make the fine adjustments by holding the Shift key while using the pitch and warp tool to make sure that the lines inside of the bars connect smoothly.
Mine lost it.
Now keep in mind, I'm going for a natural overall sound. If you want the track to sound more affected, you might want to skip these steps here. Now I'm going to go through and apply this process to the entire vocal melody.
My mind lost its spark. Lights have dimmed to dark. I thought time was my friend. The seconds are killing me. Time becomes my enemy.
The final aspect of pitch quantization I want to show you is how to work with harmony lines. The final part of this verse here has a somewhat complex 6-part harmony. To make sure it's as tight as possible, I want all the pitches to change at their proper times. Cubase makes this pretty easy to do inside of the sample editor. After I've activated the Vera audio on all the tracks and it's calculated all the pitches of each of the events, I can actually lasso all of them, and it will display the pitches of the different events in different colors. Using this view, it makes editing the starting and stopping points really easy. Now, while I'm going through and doing some of this editing, sometimes I'll have to go back to the Audio Warp tab and remove a warp tab to be able to move a pitch to the desired point. What's important is that you're always playing back the changes you make and not just relying on the visual aspect. When working with harmonies, I like to solo the vocal tracks so I can hear everything at once.
I know, time's not my friend. Not my friend. I know, time's not my friend.
Finally, let's take a listen through to hear how far these tracks have come.
My mind lost its spark. Lights have dimmed to dark. I thought time was my friend. The seconds are killing me. Time becomes my enemy. I know, time's not my friend.
The last step I'm going to do here is to flatten the real-time processing, which you can access under Audio, Real-Time Processing. What this does is it applies all the changes I've made and effectively creates new files. This way, if I activate musical mode on these tracks or apply some further editing, the changes I've made won't be undone. When flattening the tracks, you're going to be prompted for which algorithm you want to use. Be sure to select real time, as if you choose another one, the changes you've made will be undone. So, when tracking Ariel for this song, Time, I really focused on her deliveries. I knew I could edit her pitches and the timing after the matter as long as she was relatively accurate in the first place. And as you can see, it really didn't take that much effort using Cubase's built-in tools. I started by cleaning up the tracks, that is, getting rid of the unwanted noises. Then I fixed all the timing using the audio warp tool. From there, I fixed all the pitches and tightened up the harmonies using the vary audio function. And finally, after I got the parts sounding how I wanted them, I used the flatten real-time processing function to lock those changes in. And that's it. Now you know how to edit vocals in Cubase. Thanks for watching.